Mm, so nice, so savory and hot. Hello, everyone. This is Winnie, the music educator, and I'm in this episode of this vlog, A Cup of Tea with Auntie Winnie. And it's just wonderful to take a good cup of tea. When I was growing up, our tea was served hot, and there was no one to cool it down for us. So we learned how to take tea when it was hot. And to be honest, until today, I could never take tea that has gone cold or lukewarm. It's either hot or naughty for me. So this is very enjoyable. Do join me with your own cup of tea wherever you're watching from. And it's great. It's my pleasure to be here in this vlog today, just to share with you a few things about how uh, we grew up when we were younger people, and just to share those ideas with the way it is now. And the inspiration to start this vlog was based on the fact that I think, having lived a life a little longer and no longer really in the typical youthful bracket of, let's say, maybe the current Gen Zs and Gen Alpha. I'm in that mother mode or auntie mode, and after observing the way young people are growing now in the society, how we bring them up, because I can, have my children in this generation as well, the younger ones, and I just feel that there are some things that we need to impart now, and obviously, when we were growing up as young people, we had the older generation that used to take the initiative to guide us through life and tell us the do's and don'ts. And by the way, during my days when I was a young kid, and or obviously what you'd call an alpha or a Gen Z now, we would have any older person of your parents' age wherever you went, who could correct you. They could even spank you when you were younger. We were spanked. We were spanked by neighbors in the estate if you misbehaved wherever you are. And if it got to your parent that you did something wrong, and you did something wrong and you're spanked for it by that neighbor, your parent would add, more spanking, just to be able to reinforce good habits. So basically, growing up was more communal, and those were great days because, in my opinion, because we didn't have a lot happening in terms of, we didn't have technology, and so everything that was imparted in us was very real. Was very real. We didn't have to watch gadgets to be able to see, to figure out how to live life, and what are the things that we need to do, or we are copying from other people. It was really real life. You woke up in the morning, and if you were going to school, there was a way things were done. And obviously, we did not have phones. There was only maybe one small radio in the house that you could listen to news before you left. And so life was simplistic to that extent, with very few distractions. So I feel we had our space growing up was more neutral, and it was more natural. It did not have so many things that distracted us from the things that we needed to do. So yeah, I've been greatly inspired by the young people that I observe every day, I work with every day. As a music educator, teaching in school, I teach different age groups of many young people, and so we interact a lot. And because we interact a lot, you come to realize the way values have changed. And not all changes are bad, obviously, but at the same time, because of wisdom of growth, for those who are older, I feel that it's important we do take a bit of initiative as a community of older people to impart better values in our young people. Let's not just leave them to be guests of social media to learn things. In fact, that is a worrying trend for me. This video today is about really how to make our young upcoming children, generation of young people, learn the right way to live life without having to copy paste and digest so much that is on social media. It's really worrying. I know parents who deny their children uh, phones for a while. and say, there's an age limit, they should get those phones and all that. But still, these phones are everywhere, gadgets are everywhere. If they don't get this at home, they'll get elsewhere. So how do we um how do we help them out? How do we make sure that even as they, you know take use gadgets, and they digest what they watch through gadgets, that we are able to sieve it out for them, or they can also be able to sieve it out for themselves and know what is good and what is bad and what is actually just fake, because there's a lot of fake impressions about life on gadgets, because people just do it to have a higher ranking on social media. And some of the things, some of the values that are coming up and habits, oh my goodness, they're scary. I'm scared as a parent, I'm scared as an older person right now, watching young people growing, and how they're handling situations in life. And so I think there's so much to talk about this, but today I want to focus on something that in our times was so special, special, and also had hilarious moments. And this was about how we embraced people in terms of visitors. When we were at home, let's say during the weekend, we would have people coming in, and not just the weekend, any day actually of the week, so long as someone was home, maybe after work or after school. We In our days, people would visit one another very freely. There was no advance notice that you are going to get visitors in the house. Anyone would visit. A neighbor would just come to visit at any time. So long as there was someone in the house, they would come visit. I remember those days with nostalgia, because there was always people around who would actually invest their time and energies just to come and be a blessing. If you got visitors in your house, in your home, that time, that was actually considered a blessing, because most of those visitors anyway were older people. At that time, maybe older cousins or older people our parents' generation, that generation. They would come home to visit you, and then they would talk to you. So it became a whole community affair, whether you've come from school or it's during the weekend. You'd have people coming in, and we loved visitors as children, because the way our parents brought us up was that anytime a visitor comes, there was a protocol to follow. It was, you quickly, if you were seated somewhere, maybe reading or doing an activity, because those days, as I said, we didn't have gadgets, so it was quite simple lifestyle. If you've come from school, probably you're sitting down at the table, doing homework, or you're having a cup of tea like the one I'm having right now. Just give me a moment to take my nice sip before it grows cold. That's really nice. I love tea. By the way, I love tea. I digress a little bit. I love tea with lots of ginger. Now there's a lot of flu going around. My advice is that you should always do ginger tea. Yeah, I do, I grind a lot of ginger, lots of ginger. In fact, the more the merrier. My system is so full of ginger that the more I get it, the better I feel. So it's almost addictive, but in a good way. So I ground fresh ginger, then I boil it in hot water. Then I put my majani, what you call tea leaves, and sugar. Boil, 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 boil for quite some time. 20 minutes if you have the time. And then you put the milk, and that ginger just makes the tea slap. The young people can relate to that, yeah. So this is really nice. Actually, my students love this tea. Both young and old, they love my tea. No one is ever. In fact, you find one saying, I don't really like tea, but I tell them, being a mom, please just try it. And they love it. Once they take this tea, they're like, wow. And the good thing about ginger tea in this format, because it's really freshly ground ginger, is that it really just clears the throat. I'm a singer fast. And so a lot of times I get congestion, because there are so many. I'm allergic to a lot of things that, like dust, and that's typical for people who use their voice the way I do. And so the only way to be able to clear the throat, clear the mucus from the system, really is taking ginger. Ginger is really, really good. And so what has happened is that I find, even when there's an outbreak of flu, I hardly ever get sick to that extent, that fully blown flu or anything, because my ginger tea is always the greatest companion that I have. So it's very, very great. So where were we? Yes, visitors. We used to love to have visitors. And as I said, because we didn't have TV. Okay, we did have maybe TV, but our TVs were very small. And in fact, the funny thing is that those who lived at were young kids those days in the 80s, 70s, you know, the TV stations that we had were maybe one or two, especially during school days. TV started like at about 5 p.m. or 4:30 if you're lucky. So we didn't have, we preferred, we had the advantage of having more human interactions. And I think for me, that's a big thing, that we had better human interactions in our those days. When somebody came to visit you, you were so excited because they brought some level of freshness, new freshness in their homestead. So it was lovely. We would welcome our visitors, and the way our parents trained us was that if you hear a knock at the door, of course we were not scared of people like it happens nowadays. You can't just welcome anyone home, but we always excited to say, who is it? Open the door, welcome that visitor. If it is an auntie, an uncle, you know, an older person, there was a way we greeted them, you know, we with a lot of respect, let me put it that way. I find young people nowadays are quite you know, they don't fear talking to other people, which is a good thing, but sometimes they can go overboard and treat everybody like their peers. So I find that a problem as a teacher, especially because it was good to, that distance you put between you and an older person brought us up in a way that we did learn how to respect people of different authority. Authority is better. And even now at my age, when, let's say, for example, how do I use that? When you meet somebody you've not met, you don't know. You can't just be on their face and just talk the way you want. You guard your words, you play a little better self control, social intelligence. You know, you never know whom you're talking to. You could be talking to the president, you know, himself or herself, or any other person who might be of influence in what you do. So there is a way we learned how to guard our words, our body language, because we grew up with a lot of um human interactions. So we learned how to manage different interactions in different spaces. And so there's that intelligence. You just see someone, if let's say I'm at work, there's a way I carry myself around my employer or my colleagues. You know, you just don't. So we had those checks and balances better than I see nowadays. And I think also for me the problem is, as I said, gadgets and social media. What our young people are ingesting is just, it's not sieved, and anyone posts anything and anyone can see everything. And so some of those behaviors that you see young people having, when they're in a space where you are an authority and they really just, they just talk the way they want to talk to you. They're on your face, and a lot of words that come out are sometimes so disrespectful, but they don't even realize that because they watch this every day and they think it's cool. It's a concern. It's a concern because I think we need to do something about it, in terms of just bringing back that social value of respecting one another. Of course, older people should respect the younger people, and the younger people should also respect the older people. It's just that now it's different. How an older person will relate to a younger person. For example, if I want to correct a student or my child, at least some things have changed. I remember in our days where, hey, some of those some of the words that we were called by our dear parents who didn't know better, or any other person, sometimes even teachers, people of authority who are older than you, and sometimes they'd call you some unkind words in the name of discipline, and you could feel belittled. I remember one of the things that I never really liked was being compared to maybe somebody else, you know, maybe by my parent. One of my parents would say you do something wrong and they're comparing you to someone else's child, that, oh, you know, so and so's daughter does this, and you know, you're careless in this way. I detested that, knowing that we are all different. um this is something now with parents of this age. Maybe we are doing a little better for our children. We try not to compare one child to another or with other people's children. You take a child as an individual. As a teacher, I do that. I've tried to do that in my class every day. when I have like lots of students, or if I have individual students, I make sure that I treat every student as an individual rather than lumping them together and trying to compare one. Of course, it's not wrong to also use um, one child as an example of something that is would be beneficial for others. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's that just that we have to be careful that we are not demeaning as we do that as authorities, that we compare people in a way that is not helpful. So that is something there. But as I said earlier, when we were brought up in a way to respect all the people in the society, when you were visited at home as young people, as children, we would have to respond by welcoming the visitors home physically, in terms of, you literally stand up, go to the door, say hello. If they're carrying something, help them, show them where to sit, ask them whether they would like to take something to eat or to drink, whatever was in the house. And one of the things that I loved about being visited those days, or being having visitors, it was very, there was so much genuineness in even how we welcomed them, because there was no prior warning that you are going to get a visitor. They just came. So, and that was great. They just came, so whatever you had is what you shared. And that brought a lot of closeness, really genuine concern for others, without feeling the pressure of, oh, you didn't put your best show out with the visitor. No, 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 no. Whatever you had is what you shared. And then there was also this practice, especially your relatives, older relatives, every time they came to visit you, they would bring the nice goodies for children. They knew how to relate to the younger people that way. So they would come with some cookies, and we had some favorites, and some favorites, aunties and uncles, depending on what they would bring. Children, how we are a bit naughty. But those were good days, because some of those values were instilled in us. And until today, whenever you get a visitor, sometimes, yes, times have changed because people are busy, schedules are different. And then, because also of the advent of technology, we have phones, so it's easier to communicate. Someone, well, and that's okay. Sometimes we remove the element of surprise, because somebody also doesn't want to come and visit and bounce. But I don't know how they did it those days. They didn't care about bouncing. They would just come. If they didn't find you later on, whenever they had then another chance to visit, they'll tell you they visited and they didn't find you. Or they could even write a letter, which obviously took some days to arrive. But we enjoyed those days when we had various people coming to visit us, and then we would have all these conversations. They would impart their wisdom to us. We'd sit together as children with them. The days also were quite interesting, because when an older person was talking, we were trained. There's a reason why we have two ears and one mouth. You talk less and listen more. So we listened more, and that was good for us. Sometimes we didn't like it, because maybe somebody would say something that was not very pleasant. We were a bit scared to just be on the face of other people. It had its pros and cons, but I think on the whole, it served us better, because obviously they had lived longer than you, and they had gone through some experiences that, if you just took time to listen, even though it might not have applied to you at that time, later on in life, you probably went through this experience and said, I remembered somebody older who told you about it. And so you'd be able to manage the situation better. So I loved those days. I loved the times with the visitors, and then some funny things, some funny occurrences would occur, because if you got a visitor or visitors from up country, we used to call that shags. Shags is where now your parents, most of our parents in our generation were born up country, so they came to the city. Like now, I was born in up country, then we came to the city. Really? Maybe I've forgotten that fact. But yes, we grew up in the city, but our parents were born up country, so they grew up country. And from where I come from, up country is far. If you travel by bus, you go for 8 hours. Like it's far. And I remember very well up country, whenever we had to go, or even by train, it was a whole 12 hours. So we travel maybe in the evening and reach early morning. There were no good roads. Most of the upcountry places didn't have good roads. We had to walk over hills and cross rivers, but we had so much adventure. I don't think many kids nowadays have that unless they intentionally plan to go to places like those where they see nature in that way. And so when visitors came to visit you from our country, you see that's far, you didn't expect them to go back again. So there had to be, now the interesting part was when now sleeping time came, you had to make arrangements for where they were going to sleep. And most of us, I came up from, I was brought up in a very, very humble homestead. We didn't even have a visitor's room. I mean, we had one room for like 6 children. So, and one for the parents. Obviously, they're not going to sleep in the parents' room. So, and then we had their living room. So we had to organize ourselves in a way that some of us now had to spread to go to the living room, sleep on the along the corridor, and leave the bed for the visitor. So those are some of the things that you had to do. The visitors got first priority in terms of comfort when it came to sleeping matters. So as the children of the home, we would have to make the bed fresh for them and welcome them and make sure they're showered, they're comfortable, and they slept. And we had to adapt very fast. And I remember, I mean, of course, it was not the most comfortable situation, but we didn't really feel bad or demoralized or diminished just because we had to sleep elsewhere on a mattress on the floor. These things, they taught us, as I said, just how to live as community sharing, and it's not so bad to sleep on the mattress on the floor, and especially if you're going to glean some blessings from the person that you're serving, maybe your auntie or your uncle. It was great. I think some of those values were good. They helped us to know how to relate with people better, to be more loving, caring, and less selfish. So this is something, I don't know what, if you're watching this, I don't know what age group you are, but I'd like you to give some feedback. What do you think? Do you think that this conversation or what I've just shared is relevant today? Do you think that something could change to help the younger people today to be more caring, to be more receptive to new people, even that they've not met, but welcome them, whether it's in a classroom situation or at home, just to be able to love people. And then also that show of care and respect for older people, the way you behave. There was a way we would sit, we would not slump. We would not sit like girls with short dresses in front of even our parents, things like those. We are going to discuss those in other episodes coming up, but at least today, just that aspect of welcoming visitors at home, sharing what you have, being bonding with them in a way that if they were older, they would impart some wisdom of life, being able to serve them to the completion where you might be a bit uncomfortable because your space has been intruded upon a little bit, but it was okay because we valued visitors. There was a bigger value system on visitors, and there was no warning. There was no one to call you to tell you they're coming home to your house. So we took it the way it was. So I would love to get feedback about this episode. Tell me what you think is you've learned that is good, at whatever age you are, or if you have something to share about this as well, your own experience that was interesting, and generally, as a younger person, if you're watching, do you think this was a good practice those days? Is it something that we should nurture you young people to do now? Or how do we even correct this if it's something that we feel that it's a wrongdoing, or it should have been carried on, but we are not doing it as frequently as we should? Of course, we need to think about the society, though it has changed. Not so many, there's been also that, how do I put it? Just the fact that humanity has changed. Not everyone is good. There's more of bad people. But is it really that, or is it just because we've changed our values? As I said, how do we balance this? So I'd like to hear some opinions about this episode, how we can grow together, what are the things that we can take forward, what should be left behind, and yeah, and also what else you'd like to hear in the upcoming episodes. But it's been so nice to fellowship with you and to share with you about what we've shared today in this episode. And it's your girl here, your auntie, your other mom, Winnie the music educator. over a cup of tea. I hope you had yours when you're watching this one. And I'm looking forward to feedback. If you really, really enjoyed this video, kindly share it with others. And let's keep the conversations flowing. I can't wait to see you again soon with another tantalizing episode. So for now, have a good day ahead. If it's nighttime, sleep well and hope to catch up with you soon. Please, let's keep the conversation going. Talk to me. Tell me what you feel. So for now, I say bye bye. Yeah. So do remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel and all my social media spaces as Winnie the Music Educator.